Welcome to Fake Presidents, a real podcast about, well, you know, it's in the title.
Each episode will take a deep dive into a fictional American president or presidents from pop culture to see just how much fiction there really is.
We're two former political junkies who do like talking about politics. We just don't like talking about actual, real-life politics.
No, because it's just too damn depressing.
I'm Eric Buckman, a former political consultant turned TV writer.
And I'm Ben Oren, a former journalist, sometimes speechwriter, and all-the-time TV producer.
Today, we're going down to Paradise City, where the grass is green and the girls are...
Is the grass real? By the way, that was like the perfect song reference for this show, and it was surprising that they didn't use it at all.
I'm going to blow your mind, Ben.
Yeah.
By the way, we're doing Dan Fogelman's Paradise starring Sterling K. Brown. And in the original script, which I'm looking at right here. So this one has no asterisks on it.
Wait, did somebody leave it? Did somebody deliver it to your front porch? Did you find it tied up in like twine? And you were like, what is this? This is like some, how do you get something like that?
It was sent to me in like a black box with like a really weird bracelet that said, wear in case of emergency. You'll know when to put it on.
When you go to Universal Nintendo Land.
We bought those. We have the Super Nintendo Land bracelets.
We have two of them as well. Levi got the Luigi one. It has a big L on it. And I was like, is this a political statement? Like, I know why he wants it. His name's Levi. It's an L.
Yeah. But
then it's like, am I putting a kid out there in the world who's like, it's okay to murder executives who lead companies that you don't agree with?
Look, is it a political statement to raise your fist and scream power up with Luigi? Is it? I mean, it makes sense when you're actually in Super Nintendo Land and you can literally power up by making a fist and hitting things in the air. Okay, the original script. This has no date on it, no asterisks. I think this is the one he wrote that he sent to Hulu and said, make this. And they're like, okay, we'll do it. But apparently they only had two notes. Because this script is extremely similar to what got shot. The notes are, 1, the title is not Paradise. It's Paradise City.
No.
And 2, the closing song is not a take on Another Day in Paradise.
By Phil Collins.
It's not that song that they actually wound up using. No, it is the more mournful, soulful take on Paradise City.
Because of the lyrics of Paradise City, it is impossible to do that. That's crazy. Those are crazy notes.
The other change, his name was Cal Bradley, not Cal Bradford.
I would take that note just so you could say no to all the other notes.
Right. Because the song, they do highlight, the two lyrics they highlight, and the only two lyrics are that the grass is green and that the girls are pretty. And so watching the series, or at least the first episode, I mean, yeah, that pretty much describes their two goals in setting up this land were to make sure that the grass indeed looks green, if fake, and that the girls are pretty. This is a network caliber cast of male and female, very attractive faces.
In the business, we call them hotties.
My name is Andrew Shepard, and I am the president.
Let's see who these beautiful people are.
Well, I think the most beautiful person has the most beautiful mind. It's probably the creator.
Yeah, Dan Fogelman. This dude is so talented. It's like, as you know, Dan Fogelman, he wrote This Is Us. He was the writer of Crazy Stupid Love. He wrote The Neighbors, a sitcom that my wife and we loved when that was on. There's still jokes from that show. There's this random joke on the show about Halloween and how the aliens called it Halloween-ween. And every year when it's Halloween time, Melissa and I will call it Halloween-ween.
Yeah, that was a very clever show, very high concept comedy. For some reason, it did not get a fair shake out the gates.
I think it's because they didn't follow all the rules that they followed for Paradise in terms of casting hotties. They cast mostly hotties. Jamie Gertz. The aliens were very good looking. But the lead dad, what was it, Lenny Venito?
Oh, that guy.
He's a guy. He's a guy from the neighborhood. He was like fourth mobster in like Christopher Moltisanti's crew in The Sopranos.
Yeah, he's the kind of guy you would usually cast to be mobster number 4, taxi driver number 2. Good actor.
He was like but it was like a parody of like fat guy with the hot wife. Like,
So you're saying as far as male leads go, Sterling K. Brown and James Marsden might be an upgrade in some departments.
Little upgrade. But
As far as
still,
appealing to a certain demographic.
people who have eyes, yes. The demographic of human beings who have eyes, yes,
Wow.
they would appeal more than Lenny Finito. I hope he's not one of the 183 people who listen to our podcast, Lenny. If so, I'm sorry, man. You can come on. Look, I will send Lenny Finito a picture of myself, and he can go on his podcast and just go off on me.
Dan Fogelman also did Cars. He wrote the first Cars.
Yes.
Yeah, which is probably, of everything he's done, is probably the franchise that has raked in the most pure money for the people who produce this, Disney.
But everything he does, I remember his pilots that weren't picked up were always really good. Just on the page, on the page, he is just as strong as what he puts on the screen. He is.
Oh yeah,
he is masterful.
Because as we've learned, he also takes good notes.
Yes, and disregards the terrible ones.
Okay, so that's the main creative driving force. I mean, a lot of producers on this. A lot of the actors are also producers on this, or at least Sterling K. Brown is. James Marsden, we mentioned. He plays I was going to say the titular president. No, he's not President Paradise. Yes. But he plays the president who is at the center of everything.
Yes, President Cal Bradford.
Yeah, even though he dies quickly into the proceedings of this series, he's seen in every episode.
That's the beauty of Dan Fogelman. He does flashbacks better than anybody. He's if there was a script that had problems with flashbacks and I was an exec, I'd be like, get me Fogelman on the phone. He's the only guy who could fix these flashbacks.
Yeah, his motto there seems to be less is more. He loves to give you lots of emotion in the flashbacks, little details. Although that said, on This Is Us, the big thing there, I mean, a lot of big things, but one of the biggest questions in the audience's mind was, how did handsome man Milo Ventimiglia die? Milo?
Yeah.
How did he die? He's the dad in the series. He's not in any of the present day storylines. He's only there in flashbacks, married to Mandy Moore. And it's one of those things where the audience, from everyone I talked to who watched the show,
he learned what he learned from the neighbors. He could have cast a non-good looking person. Instead, he was like, I'm not going to make that mistake again. The Venito mistake. Get me Milo.
But that mystery went on for not just the whole first season, but it was like multiple seasons.
Yeah.
Dozens and dozens of episodes before they reveal how he finally dies, even though to every character on the show, they knew how he died.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's not a mystery to them. And so here, he was kind of doing that too, where everyone on the show knows something the audience doesn't know. I mean, not how the president died. That's the mystery. No. But no one knows, like, why are they in this, shall we say it?
Let's say it.
Silo, dome, mountain.
A show that was presented in its trailers as just being a political thriller of sorts is actually a science fiction political thriller.
Yeah. They basically live in the city at the end of the world. A town at the end of the world. And everyone who's in that town, all 25,000 of them, they have a pretty good idea of what happened to get them there.
Yes, and they believe that they are the only survivors.
Yes. And I'll say to Fogelman's credit, maybe someone gave him this note, he gives us that information this season. He does not drag it out that much further. But who else has made this thing?
Well, we have James Marsden. I got to say, James Marsden is not an actor who I have generally enjoyed. I understand his face, but in terms of when he shows up in projects, I'm always like, He is so good in this. He's way better than when he was Cyclops. He was like a meh Cyclops in the X-Men movies. Sonic's best friend in all 3 movies. He's like an okay buddy, but in this, he's great.
That's another smart thing that Fogelman did. He let us see Marsden's eyes. Mm-hmm. Now, Marsden, this is not the first time he's played an inhabitant of the Oval Office. He was also John F. Kennedy.
Oh, yeah.
Lee Daniels, the butler. I have to stress it's Lee Daniels, the butler, because that was the official title, because they couldn't use the word just the butler, because a different studio had certain trademarking rights on that.
Good play by Lee Daniels.
Okay. So we probably need to speed through this cast because we're already...
Okay. So we already hit President Cal Bradford, James Marsden, Secret Service agent Xavier Collins, Sterling K. Brown from This Is Us, People vs. O.J., Oscar nominated for American Fiction, which I really enjoyed that movie. Also in the cast, we have Julianne Nicholson as Samantha Redmond, who's also known as Sinatra. That's her nickname. She's the HBIC, the head billionaire in charge.
I saw what you did there.
Yeah, you see what I did there. She is kind of like the shadow president of Paradise. We have another familiar face in here, somebody who we've seen in space.
In space?
In space. We've seen her on the moon. We've seen her at Mars.
Oh, and we've covered these movies?
We covered this TV show.
Oh,
For All Mankind.
Chris Marshall.
Nicole Robinson, who's a CIA agent who's having an affair with Cal Bradford, is played by Chris Marshall.
Yes, who also was in Apple TV's the Vince Vaughn Florida set.
Oh, Bad Monkey.
Bad Monkey.
Speaking of more good-looking people, Sarah Shahi.
Who we have covered as well. She was in Red, White, and Royal Blue.
Yes. She plays Shrink.
A psychiatrist.
A psychiatrist who specializes in grief.
Oh, I think that's the connection. Okay. So she deals... Okay, so when you're grieving, one of the things that you feel is survivor's guilt.
Yes.
So I guess she is the perfect person to be in charge of psychologically vetting all 25,000 people who are to live in this dome because of the fact they're all survivors. Mm-hmm. And they're all dealing with mass grief. And maybe me just realizing it now is dumb because I think everyone else probably got this watching the series. That was a connection.
They should have done a slow version of Jesse's Child Survivor during that part.
I'm a survivor.
I'm a survivor.
Well, there was one episode that did not end in a song, and that would have been the perfect song for it.
Yeah. Finally, two last names we probably want to throw in there. We have Cal Bradford's dad, Kane Bradford, played by Gerald McRaney, who's also from This Is Us.
Some might say he's quite the major dad.
He is a major dad. In Simon vs. Simon, he played either the first Simon or the second Simon.
Yeah. These are shows that most people in our audience have no idea what we're referring to.
No, 80s and 90s. 80s and 90s, which makes sense, because Paradise is a show that loves the 80s and 90s.
It is.
And finally, Eric, since we establish, and the show establishes, Cal Bradford is assassinated, is murdered from the get in the first episode, that means we have a bonus president as well. The vice president becomes the president. President Henry Baines, played by an amazing character actor, Matt Malloy, who is in Alpha House, who plays a president in Sex Lives of College Girls, Eric, which if you were to have seen that in IMDb, oh, president? There's a president in Sex Lives of College Girls? You'd be like, Ben, you need to watch this episode. There's a fake president in it. No, yet again, Eric, this is the president of the university, who we don't cover in this.
Get off my plane.
Well, why don't you give a quick breakdown of plot? Like, quickie, like, plot that leads up to people of the flashbacks that get everybody in there. Because you're very good at keeping it condensed and just ripping through that storyline to get us to how everybody's in Paradise and what led to them there and who didn't make it.
Well, I wouldn't say I'm good at that. I'm saying certain writers are probably better writing to that. And Dan Fogelman, he's a good writer in that regard. So he makes this really easy. Because on one level, we have a murder mystery. We have seemingly a retired president living out the remainder of his days in a sunny, remote type existence. He's kind of bored, actually.
And he's very drunk.
Drinks a lot. Family doesn't really have that much to do with him. He himself seems to have nothing to do during the day. Wears his bathrobe a lot. He gets his brains bashed in. And the big question is, who would kill a seemingly popular retired president? Youngish retired president at that. And then we go into the whole flashback stuff. We find out that this retirement community... I guess it's not fair to say retirement community. It's not like he's in a retirement home. Yeah. But this community that he retired to is inside of a mountain in Colorado. It was built by a conglomerate of billionaires who knew the end was coming. And so although the series doesn't give us this until near the end of the first season, I'll just say it now because it'll help us in laying out who this president is from this point forward, is they knew that an ecological disaster was going to trigger a nuclear holocaust, a global nuclear holocaust.
When they played the full game for like the end game for what would happen.
Yeah.
Because basically an underground volcano went off in
Antarctica,
the South Pole. Antarctica, which led to rapid melting of the ice, which led to a rapidly traveling tsunami wrapping around the world multiple times at such a high pace that it leaves essentially like a sonic boom with 300-foot high waves that take out anything in its path.
So every coastal city on the entire planet, and we should remind our audience at this point that the vast majority of people live on the coast of something, is gone. And so that wipes out most of the population of the world right there. And then what's left quickly devolves into a fight for resources, territory. And so within hours of the volcanic explosion, the supervolcano, you have massive death. Within minutes of the death happening, you have nuclear weapons launching. And that triggers the Versailles Protocol, in which the president's not even following his orders, following the orders of the billionaires, which he is one of, but we'll get into that. They wind up triggering the Versailles Protocol, which means that they and everyone, all 25,000 people in America, it's not an international group. It's just America, right?
Correct.
Okay, so no H-1B1 visas or...
No. They never knew when this catastrophic event might occur. They just wanted to be prepared for it. So over the course of 15 years, they were building paradise in this mountain in Colorado.
They've been building it for over a decade, thinking they had at least a decade before this would happen. They wind up, it seems like, completing paradise right on time.
Ahead of schedule.
Because not only did the supervolcano erupt sooner than they thought, but it also erupted faster than they thought.
No warning.
Yeah. They thought they'd get some early tremors first, and not the fun Kevin Bacon tremors.
No, not like fun monsters that like eat people.
So the nuclear weapons are going off as they're trying to get all 25,000 of these Americans to the Colorado mountain bunker that seemingly no one knows about. During the early episodes of the series, you think there might be some conspiratorial rumors of its existence, maybe on right-wing channels, people openly talking about it like it's Area 51. And we find out by the last episode, no, it's just one guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, seemingly no one knew this was happening.
They did a good job. Good job. Everybody kept, loose lips, sink ships. But on their way to Paradise, we had 3 planes flying from D.C. The president was on one plane with Secret Service people, his family. For some reason, the vice president, which I thought was a weird choice. You'd think that they would keep them in separate planes in this scenario. There was another plane with Joint Chiefs, all the military people, and a third plane with Congress and and the Supreme Court.
Yes.
And the sonic boom, when it hit them, caused the plane with our government, with our representatives to crash. Boo-hoo. Right. And the plane with Joint Chiefs, they knew that they were not going to be able to make it. And so that plane eventually went down as well.
So roughly 25,000 people, including the president, make it into the compound. And they make it clear that even though Cal was his 8 years were going to be up somewhat soon, they're going to extend that, let him be president within the Paradise Bunker. And so it's not a murder mystery about a retired president. It's a murder mystery of a current president who seemingly has very little to do. Mm-hmm. Yes. And so that's the premise, the plot, the setup, kind of everything we need to know to talk about the president. I'm sure more plot details will come out as we cover decisions this president makes or does not make.
Yes.
This is a presidential favor.
So, boom, boom, boom. Let's talk about President Cal Bradley.
We could, but I'd be like, who's that guy?
Sorry, President Cal Bradford. I read the script, Ben.
You're like, the script was perfect as it is. In your mind, canon says he's Cal Bradley.
Oh, yeah.
But to be fair, that was a good note. I think Cal Bradford is a better name.
I would have gone the other way. To me, Bradford sounds too much like they're trying to ape some 18th century president, and Cal Bradley's supposed to be like a 21st century president.
Like Bill, but that would be a 20th century president because that was Bill Bradley, who was not president, but still. Good guy. Great forward, beautiful touch. Always had to be hands up, be ready for the passes from him. He was all around fantastic player. He's got the ring to prove it. New York Knicks.
Wow.
Anyway, what do we know about Cal Bradford? We know a lot. I mean, nothing is really withheld about his background at all. We know that he's a rich kid with daddy issues. His dad, Kane, was basically like an energy baron, an oil baron, a Kentucky kid.
From Kentucky. His code name is Wildcat because he went to the University of Kentucky, and he still to this day loves talking about Kentucky basketball.
Yep. But he didn't even want to get into politics. He didn't want to get into his family business. He wanted to be a teacher.
Like his mom. So that's also his family business, Ben. Just because there's no business in family business doesn't mean it's not a business to be in the family of.
His father seems to disagree about that one.
Yeah. His choices are either follow in his dad's footsteps and, take over the company.
Which he didn't feel that he necessarily had the stomach for. He didn't believe that Cal had it in him to be an oil man. To be a landman.
In the earliest flashback of Cal's life, he is just returning from ostensibly a trip to look for, new locations for fracking. And the father is like, okay, well, I've got another path for you. You can from Kentucky, so you can either become a Democratic senator or a Republican governor.
Your choice.
Your choice. And he chooses Democratic senator, which is why when we first meet him, the first time we actually do meet the president kind of alive and well is in a scene where he's seemingly interviewing Sterling K. Brown to be his new head of security, in which he pretends like he's a little bit racist.
It's like a cute racism because he wanted to play basketball with Xavier. And when he finally gets Xavier to play with him, it turns out that he sucks at basketball, that Collins is not a good basketball player.
No, not a good basketball player, and not just from the wound he suffers saving the president's life.
Yep.
And during his second term, early in his second term? Yes, because the day that they first meet each other after his re-election to office, where he calls himself one of the world's richest men who has become president of the United States.
I went from being one of the richest men in the world to a one-term, now two-term president almost overnight. I drink whiskey in the middle of the Oval Office. And I'm upfront about telling a potential new lead agent that part of the reason he's appealing to me is the color of his skin. I did not get here by doing things by the book.
He calls it a very unconventional path. He calls himself a Southern progressive, says it's important for him to be seen with Sterling because of his race near him. And Sterling calls him on it. It's like, I don't know how much it helps to have one of your bodyguards be black. Shouldn't your cabinet members be black? And we find out, he does have multiple black cabinet members. He just doesn't do photos with them that often. But yeah, he definitely plays up a lot of the stereotypes that might get associated with a rich, youngish Southern boy who is seemingly progressive, but
Can be problematic in other ways.
But I was gonna say a Joe Manchin kind of way, maybe, but younger and a little more progressive.
Definitely more progressive than Joe Manchin.
Yeah, but still heavily linked to fossil fuels.
Linked to fossil fuels, but still he attends conferences about the environment.
He does care.
As a senator, he essentially went to a Davos for the environment. Stuck around for the talks with the scientists who had some of the craziest ideas of what could happen and did happen.
In fact, we find out in that episode he's very empathetic.
Extremely. That's so funny that you say that, Eric, because in my list of things about what do we know about Cal Bradford, I wrote deeply empathetic. In a way, he's empathetic in a way that I don't think a president can be empathetic. It's a good character trait for any person to have.
Yeah.
But for a leader like him, it's almost like something that can take him down.
Bill Clinton's famous for doing that sort of semi-point, semi-fist thing with his thumb sticking out.
With the lip.
And saying,
I feel your pain.
Yeah, maybe he did feel your pain because he felt a lot of things about a lot of people. But this guy, he really doesn't just feel people's pain, he absorbs it, which winds up, I think, being part of what ultimately kills him is because when he thinks everyone hates him, he takes it really personally and he really feels it.
Still a little boy.
Yeah. But we find out he's empathetic, and we see that because Julianne Nicholson's character, who I guess we'll call Sinatra because everyone on the show calls her Sinatra.
Yeah, she's the chairman of the board.
She's a chairman of the board, although it's implied that the reason why the Secret Service calls her Sinatra is they think it's because she wears hats, even though we never see her wear hats in the series. But she says she has to wear hats because she has a nervous tick where she pulls out her hair, which is why she started wearing hats. But I guess that nervous tick went away thanks to Sarah Shahi, because by the time the series begins, we don't see her doing that.
Yep.
Anyway, Sinatra, she loses a son early in her marriage, after post-billionaire, pre-taking over the world.
Yes.
And President or Senator Bradford, he really locks into her pain, sees her alone after this this, the Davos like place, and he talks about her son. A lot of people, when you're around people in grief, will want to keep things not too depressing, but he doesn't avoid the elephant in the room. He asks her how things are going. It's directly in relation to the loss of her son. She appreciates that. She appreciates the fact that he sensed and locked into and even made her feel better in the moment. Because not only is she grieving, but she just walked out of a lecture about the end of the world,
yes.
which she also, yeah. And so maybe it's that moment where she...
Yeah, with a scientist who does not mince words about what needs to be done and how close we are to the destruction of the world and how we are not prepared for it.
But yeah, so that might even be the moment that she decides that this Cal Bradford guy is the guy for her to lead the world through this.
She's got money. He's got money. They have the means to at least save part of humanity.
Yeah.
Even though she might kill her own humanity while doing it.
Exactly. Well, a more cynical take might be not that she sees his empathy as a source of strength as a president during a time when a lot of people might need it. She might see it as a source of the weakness that could be exploited to make him pliable to her whims.
Mm-hmm. What else do we know? We know that he's married but estranged from his wife. He's having an affair with the agent from For All Mankind.
Yeah.
Her name's Nicole. He has a son who hates him. We know that he loves rock music from the 80s and 90s. Loves it. Makes him so happy.
We know he likes Phil Collins. We know he likes Another Day in Paradise. We know at the end of episode 2, he likes the song, We Built This City.
Yes.
We built this city on rock and roll. We know at the end of episode 3, he likes the song, I Think We're Alone Now.
Good song.
Because he knows.
To be anyone around.
I Think We're Alone Now, a song that I think that he only likes because it's good for listening to while you're having shower sex.
It's true. Children behave. Yeah. That's what they say when we're together.
Every song does have a thematic resonance to the entire episode that came before it, except for this one that only applies to the last scene of the episode. That's the one where Sarah Shahi and Sterling K. Brown are having sex in the shower. And just as the song, I Think We're Alone Now, is playing, that's when she starts to whisper into Sterling's ear a secret that she is only saying because she thinks they're alone now. Yeah. And that is that James Marsden knew that the end was coming for him, and he believed that if he died, it would have been because of another Secret Service agent named Billy. And that's what he told Sarah Shahi.
I feel like we hit a lot of the key points. Is there anything else you want to say about Cal Bradford?
Well, I think the important thing is he gets introduced one way, and then as the series progresses, we find out we were intentionally given a bad impression of this guy.
Yeah.
We've been told by many people how racist he is, but it turns out probably not. But he likes to play into it if he thinks it's going to afford him a certain amount of sway.
Yeah.
And I don't just mean acting racist to get a racist vote, but I mean literally he uses the fact that Sterling thinks he might be a bit racist to hide the real reason why he wants Sterling to be his agent. Like he can't say, oh, I want you to be my lead agent because I've been told that you fit the psychological profile of a post-apocalyptic head of security and that you need to be there by my side for when all shit goes down. No, he says, I need you by my side because I think you're good at basketball and I need to look better in photos that will appear in the press. Yeah. We also think that his interest in music is he's a little lazy and like we think his last day on Earth, we see him puttering around the kitchen. We see a flashback where he's wearing a robe, walking through the city, going to the library, making a mixtape for his son. We think he's kind of lost his marbles a bit. But then we later find out that's the day that he was actually putting together his plan for certain secrets of paradise to survive him because he knew the end was coming for him, which is another thing we know about him because we do learn that at a certain point, feeling the fact that there's a longing in paradise, people wondering, we've been told there's this nuclear holocaust. We've been told we're it. No one else is out there. But how much do we really know? Maybe there are survivors. And so what does President Cal Bradford do, Ben?
They send 4 people out of paradise to see if there are any survivors. And they do this because they're like, of course they're not going to find anything. There are no survivors. Easy thing. Yeah. Easy peasy. Yeah.
And so they send out 4 explorers who don't come back.
No.
It was so bad out there they died. Actually, they were killed by Billy, the Secret Service agent.
Yeah, because it turns out that there are survivors.
A lot of them.
How dare you come into this office and bark at me like some little junkyard dog? I am the President of the United States.
So yeah, he does do some smart things. We find out that he wanted to find out whether or not there were survivors out there, and unbeknownst to him, the explorers he sent out were killed on Sinatra's orders.
Bad call keeping the audio of that. Keeping the record of that was a very smart lady. That was a little slip up.
But that said, maybe she's so smart she knows this to cover up the kills just, so she's like, I'm not going to cover it up. No cover up? It's not. How can they get me if I don't try to cover it up?
They always say the cover up's worse.
Worse than the crime of murdering four scientists.
Four people. No, it's pretty bad, but if I try to cover it up, it would be worse. Yeah. Cover up's always worse. We know that.
But he does make some calls. He does figure out that there is murdering going on at the highest levels of, I would say highest levels of government, higher than him even.
And the murdering, but on top of the murdering, it's the fact that there are survivors.
Yes.
The key thing that there are survivors. And why are there survivors, Eric?
There are survivors because, and this is why he should have been more of a fan of Kentucky football and not Kentucky basketball, because this guy loves calling audibles. Mm-hmm. He knows there's a plan. He can't stick to the plan because his empathy kicks in and he has to do the other thing. Because there's one episode that does begin with final days of the Cuban Missile Crisis, in which you see some colonel relieved that nuclear war did not break out. But he also realizes that had there just been one different sub-commander in charge of Russia's nuclear weapons closest to the continental United States, things might have gone very differently. Mm-hmm. And no one person should have that kind of power. So he decides to give one person a very different kind of power. He envisions a world where you can give the U.S. president two buttons. One to end the world, and also one to unend the world.
Turn off all the electronics for a minute? For how long? For longer than a minute?
Yeah, so basically what we find out, Cal
Pay
Bradford...
attention to that, what I just said, folks. Turn off all the electronics for a minute.
I got that, because I've seen Zero Day. So yeah, we do find out that President Cal Bradford, while aboard Air Force One flying to Colorado, was presented with this choice. They know that they're incoming nukes to the U.S.
From Russia, from China.
And they have a very small window to launch theirs before they won't have that capability anymore. And you're wondering, well, if everything's ending and they have this backup place, why even bother killing everybody else at this point? And it's because, as Sinatra puts it, if we don't take them out now, they will keep coming for the bunker. So to save the bunker, you have to destroy the world. To save the world, you have to kill the cheerleader. Wait, what was that tagline?
Save the cheerleader, save the world.
So I get my Milo Ventimiglia shows mixed up. Okay, so he's aboard Air Force One. He opens up the football, which can launch all the nukes. And this is where we find out that Sinatra does not know about
the other button.
In the football. The football, by the way, if you've listened to other episodes, you know, it's the briefcase that the president has access to that allows him to launch all our nuclear weapons. And he tells Sinatra, I hit the red button, we launch all our nukes, we save the bunker. But there's a blue button. I pushed the blue button.
This is like, let's make a deal or something.
It will trigger a global network of electromagnetic pulse devices, EMP devices, that will wipe out all incoming missiles and also all electronics of all kinds that are currently operating across the globe. So it's either kill everybody on Earth or just send everybody on Earth back to the Stone Age. And he chooses B. But he and Sinatra are really the only two people who know he's taken that choice before they all head into the bunker and it all closes down. And that is why there are a lot more survivors at the end of the world than anyone would have any reason to believe, because there was no nuclear holocaust. Some nukes went off, but not all of them.
Yeah.
Less than all. Somewhere between 0 and all of them. Closer to 0?
Yeah.
Let's say 10. 10 nukes went off.
Hopefully not in the U.S.
So he makes that decision. What's interesting, though, we do see in that same episode, we see what happens as news is getting out amongst the White House staff that there is this Versailles Protocol and then there is a place to go to. And you think his empathy is going to kick in and he's going to take some stragglers with him. He does not.
He can't take them all.
So he doesn't take any of them. It's like, sorry, if you didn't already know about this before right now, you're not in the loop enough to come with me. Yeah. And he does stick by that, but he's very pained by it.
And in some cases, he has empathy, but he also knows when to lie to people. Because the reason why Sterling hates the president is because on this day, when they need to get to paradise, he's always told Sterling that wherever your wife is, we will find a way for your wife to join us. You can't tell her what's going on just yet.
Yeah.
But on the day that it happens, we will make sure your wife is with you. Because his wife is a scientist who has a lot of business research, whatever, going on down in Atlanta.
You may just think for a while this might be a disease type thing that
Yeah.
killed everybody because the CDC is there.
Yep.
But nope. That was they just picked Atlanta because that's where they filmed the series. And I guess they thought, well, one day we might need to show her in Atlanta. So let's go ahead and say she's in Atlanta. So that way we're already there.
Yeah, that way they can do a scene at Truist Ballpark.
Because everybody knows what Atlanta looks like.
Yeah.
That's why Atlanta is so popular for filming, because everyone knows what it looks like.
It is so specific from the architecture to the restaurants. But yeah, however, because everything happened so quickly with this Antarctic volcano erupting, there was no shot for Mrs. Sterling to make it to paradise.
It happened too fast.
But
Yeah.
in order to keep Sterling's head in the game, he did not tell him that.
Did not tell him that. And only when he knows that Sinatra's probably going to kill him.
That's Cal Bradford, yes.
Even though she doesn't seem to be, I think that's at the end, it's a paranoid fear of his. Like, she doesn't seem like she had any intention to ever kill him. But even though he's worried Sinatra's going to kill him because he found out the truth about what happened to those explorers who left the dome, that's why he leaves a path of clues for Xavier to find the way out of the dome and possibly to be reunited with his wife, even though it's not clear how he would know that she survived.
Unless he had access to everything on the screen.
Yeah.
And then it turns out that Sinatra has heard incoming messages from people. And one of those incoming messages from people on the outside, from the outsiders, from the outies, are they innies? Are there innies and outies?
No shows are using that, Ben. I think
No shows are using that. So there's the
Yeah.
innies live in paradise, the outies live outside of paradise.
Yes. And that,
And the outies send a message, and one of those outies is his wife. And so he now knows that for the past 3 years that he's been living underground as an innie.
Yeah.
His wife's been living as an outie.
And she specifically says, ever since the worldwide global EMP pulse, which we call the severance, happened. Yeah, it's interesting that episode 7, that's the one you get the full story on what happened, how things went down the last day that the world fully functioned.
Yeah.
They spend a lot of time on showing the original ecological doomer, I'll call him, the one who gave the lecture on TV.
He's an actor I've always enjoyed. That was kind of surprising to me that he only has such a small role in this. He was married to Christine Hendricks.
Bet. This is a guy who inspired them to do their entire Paradise Plan.
Yeah.
Where's his black bracelets? Why is he still on TV?
It's crazy.
Why is it?
I figured they would have talked to him about everything. That's how they know everything. Bring him into the fold.
My only headcanon theory is Sarah Shahi took one look at the guy's psychological profile.
This
said,
dude's a whistleblower. This dude's a whistleblower.
No, we do not want to be trapped in a mountain with this guy.
Jeffrey Arad. I didn't look that up, guys. I believe his name is Jeffrey
Interesting.
A something.
Yeah, but basically, as the world is falling completely apart, nuclear missiles are in the air, he is on TV being told to control his language.
As he's basically telling, I fucking told you so.
Although maybe that's why I didn't pick him. His example of words that he has a right to say now that the world are ending, he says, I can say fuck or shit or tits.
Oh, we don't need that kind of language, Bob? You're high for a real disaster to say fuck or shit or tits.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, the fact your mind goes there first.
Well, again, he improvised those lines, and as I said earlier, he was married to Christina Hendricks.
How? Because I'm the goddamn president of the United States of America.
Okay, so POTUS does make one audible on that day of.
Yes.
And that is as they're leaving for the Versailles Protocol, which he has somehow tied into Die Hard. Because the same episode that we find out what the protocol is, that's when Bradford somehow expresses to Xavier his dismay that Xavier's never seen the movie Die Hard.
Yeah.
Because he loves Die Hard. And so, but as the actual protocol is going, and they're being evacuated, guns are being drawn in the White House. He sees a custodian still mopping up.
Not quite a butler, but
Yeah, this is not Forrest Whitaker. This White House custodian still cleaning up. He stops to talk to the guy, tell the guy, go home, be with your family. And the guy's like, why? We have a birthday party tomorrow we're all going to be at. I'll see them all then. Let me just finish my day here, dude. Like, go about doing what you're doing. Because at this point, the one address he gave to the nation, didn't say nothing's going to happen, but it was like, we'll get through this. It was one of those
Stay calm.
speeches.
Stay calm.
Yeah. Stay calm. Maybe stay off the beach for a bit. Avoid that wave.
Don't surf the tsunami.
Avoid that.
To
blue wave.
which the ghost Patrick Swayze was like, don't tell me what to do.
Yeah. But then seeing this custodian believing that there will be a life going on the next day, that inspires him. I got to go back in the office. I got to give the real speech. And he gives a speech with no teleprompter where he tells everybody, this is it. Do not plan for tomorrow. Be with your families and your loved ones now.
My fellow Americans, I know you're aware of the situation we now face. And I want to tell you the truth.
And then he takes off. Yeah. And then all hell breaks loose in the White House, actually. That was the actual timeline.
Yeah, there's like...
Then the guns get drawn. Then his longtime aide...
Yeah, the CIA has to take out a Secret Service agent who realizes that he's not on the list. He was only there for 3 days. He was just added to the detail.
And then there was a staffer who, throughout the episode, was beseeching Sterling, I don't care about me, just get my son to safety. And Sterling was like, I'll see what I can do.
See what I can do about it.
And of course, that means nothing. There's nothing he can do. Nothing happens. I thought she was going to wind up. I actually really thought they were setting her up to be the one who snuck in to kill Bradford.
Oh.
I thought.
But no, there was I liked this twist. I was cool with this twist.
So, ultimate spoiler horn.
Wait. Tequila. This is the ultimate spoiler horn, is the tequila.
So, what ultimately is the downfall of this president? What ultimately kills him?
The guy who tried to kill him all those years ago.
So, yeah. So, basically, and I have to believe this was always their plan because they must have had the same actor playing all these parts, is you have a librarian, a balding, male pattern balded librarian, the person who is always there whenever the kids go into the library. He's there when the son wants to listen to the mixtape that the father made for him. He's there when the president wants to make the mix CD for the son. So he's there. He's around. And then we also know there was a hidden cameraman at a press conference who pulls out a gun, hidden a mic, and he uses it to
tries to kill the president. Sterling takes the bullet for him.
Yes.
Then we have the top of episode 8. It starts with a flashback. We meet the workers who helped mine out the mountain. They don't know what they're doing. They don't know the job. All they know is that they're clearing rocks. They're working together underground, and that's the job. And there's this one worker who's kind of like, what would you call him?
He's like a
project manager? A shift manager?
He's like the in-between. So he has a relationship with the architect who has the plans. He also has a relationship with workers who are actually on the ground doing all the digging. Yeah. And he's apparently doing some digging himself. Yeah. He's like down there doing the grunt work.
And he's a good guy. He gets to know his coworkers. There's one worker from Africa who he becomes especially close with. They share food. They learn about each other's cultures. And during this months-long, years-long process of working down there, he notices that some of the workers are coughing a little bit.
Yeah.
That the guy, it's not that like a good cough. It's that cancer cough.
Yeah.
And it turns out that there's, what's it, arsenic?
They come up with a very specific type of gas being released that upon immediate exposure is bad, but it loses its poisonous over time, so that the people currently living there now are safe, but the people who first extract the gas, they basically absorb all the danger and all the cancer. So,
and he tries to be a whistleblower for this, and he gets fired.
And throughout all this, we see him dealing directly with the architect. The architect says, I'll take this into consideration. We'll take care of this. And then the architect's the one who, when he's locked out the next morning, is there at the gate to say, sorry, we can't let you in. He also tells him a little bit more than I was like, just so you know, this is not what you think it is. It's really bad. Go be with your family. Shouldn't have said that. Yeah. So it's the architect who's like, I'll still watch out for your people, but you're fired. Which at this point, I'm like, kill the fucking architect. Like, this is the guy who lied to you about taking care of things.
No, but this guy starts putting pieces together online, conspiracy theories and whatnot, and they turn out to be true. And he's like, the president is behind this. He's keeping something from us. I'm going to kill him. And so
the now president, the person who was not president when he started digging over a decade plus ago, but the person who's now president after he's been fired and let go and has some time to stew.
Yeah.
He pieces together that the president is tied to the company that is doing a lot of the excavation work.
Yeah, so he 3D prints out a gun and goes undercover as a sound man, because you never suspect the sound man.
I mean, you think this is maybe a result of Cal Bradford maybe shaking up how the White House press corps determines credentials for who comes in? I do know that he definitely must have suspended the FAA. That's my other theory on this guy, because Sterling's dad is well past the mandatory retirement age of 65 and still flying planes
Still
commercially.
flying with, and he's got the shakes.
So definitely he's doing things. Cal, he's got some radical positions when it comes to airline security. But yeah, so he first shot in his life, that guy. He's put in a prison in Colorado.
Supermax in Colorado.
Which you think Cal might have been like, the guy who tried to kill me, where'd you put him? Oh,
No,
can you
in
pick a
Colorado?
different state, please?
Yeah.
I can't tell you why a different state, but just pick a different state.
Close to the water would be ideal. Close to the water. But on the day that everything goes to shit, that the volcano goes off, massive riots at the prison. Yeah. He manages to escape. He manages to make his way towards the mountain, towards paradise. He manages to find a couple who are getting the bracelets, who have their way in. The guy is roughly the same height as him, has male pattern baldness, which he does not have, whatever. He's like, he impersonates policemen. He's like, let me escort you to the entrance, the very secret entrance. Get out of your car and I will walk you there. They're like, thank you, stranger. And bam, bam, he kills the guy and his wife. He's going to take their identity, realizes he needs a woman to come with him because there's a list, finds a random woman smoking cigarettes, eating junk food. He's like, hey, want to be my wife? She's like, sure enough. They manage to bullshit their way in.
Yeah.
And first he shaves the rest of his hair off, so he's got the male pattern baldness, and he's just down there biding his time.
And he actually says he was going to give up on his dream of vengeance. It wasn't until he saw Cal Bradford in his bathrobe coming into the library asking where he could listen to music that he realized, fuck this guy.
Yeah.
It all came back to him. Oh, it all came back to him. That's also a song.
Yeah. It's all coming back to me now.
Yeah. Celine. Yeah, poor French-Canadian Celine did not get a bracelet.
No famous people got bracelets, only billionaires.
Nope. No Canadians.
No.
So, and then, he decides that moment, I'm going to go kill him. What he doesn't know is the reason why Cal was there in his bathrobe is because he was on a bender trying to create stuff to outlive him. He was creating a mixed CD for his son and leave clues for Xavier.
Yeah.
So, and he goes that night to the president's, I guess, the White House. It's white. It's a house. It's a seat of government. He goes to the White House and is able to kill the president without being detected because Billy and Jane, two Secret Service agents, we won't get into it, they're playing Wii and they turn off the security cameras. Or having sex. It's never clear what they're doing that night. They seem to do both.
If you position yourself correctly, you could do both.
That said, she really likes playing Wii.
Yeah, she loves Wii. Which I would think, like, based off of the president's love of all things 80s and 90s, we wouldn't be the video game of choice in the White House. It would be like a Nintendo 64 or a Genesis.
Yeah, but here's the thing, Ben. If you don't want to have to license actual video game footage for your screen and you just want to see people holding a remote, it's funner watching somebody just holding a Wii remote and acting out playing ping pong than sitting there holding a Nintendo controller, which also might need to be licensed. So they took the cheaper production way out.
Yeah. That might have been another note. They're like, okay, we'll take this note.
Motherfucker, I'm not asking if you're interested. I'm the president of the United fucking States, man.
Okay, so not only have we covered pretty much everything presidential related, but I think we've also kind of covered our thoughts of the presidents. Is there anything?
Yeah. Oh, and last spoiler alert, Sterling ends the first season by leaving paradise. He knows how to fly planes because his father was a pilot. His grandfather was a pilot. He had an eye issue, so he wasn't allowed to become a pilot, but he could become a Secret Service agent. And he's going to fly a plane out of paradise into the world, try to find his wife.
I guess he wears contacts. Yeah. Got LASIK? Who knows?
When they're like, gun, you're like, where?
Yeah. But at the end...
Be more specific. Should I turn to my left or my right, please?
Okay. So what does this say about the year it was made, 2025?
What do you think it says? This is an interesting take because we have I like this president. I like him.
Well, what's interesting is you could have made this show 10 years ago. You could make this show 10 years from now. Like, we're always going to be living in a world where ecological disaster is going to be on the front of mind of half the population and then in the back of the heads of the other half.
Yeah.
Like, that's just where we've gotten. It would be interesting to maybe rewatch stuff like The Day After Tomorrow now, just to see how this president differs from, because that was also a puppet president.
Yes, it was. Yeah.
Or even 2012, which we have not covered yet. I believe that was President Danny Glover. And that's a very similar storyline where scientists figured out the end is coming. The president and billionaires start planning ahead, and they build a mechanism by which a certain element of society to survive, a small percentage. In fact, that's the exact plot.
The
of
arc.
this.
Is that
They
the
call
one
them
they call
arcs.
the arc?
Yeah.
All right, this one's different because in paradise, no animals.
Everything's vegan inside of paradise.
What do we think about President Matt Malloy?
I don't think he's president of the United States, Ben. I don't think we talk about him.
He gives a speech. He yells at oligarchs. When he was the VP, why do you think he was even chosen to be the VP?
So when he's VP,
Because he's a little bald, spineless guy, is what he comes across as.
Yeah, I think they call him Baines. I think is his last name. So it's VP Baines and then President Baines. We know that Sterling's dad thinks he's a little piece of shit, little Weasley doofus. I think he uses some derogatory words about him, about basically how ineffective he is, and no one will trust that guy to do anything. And then when he's elevated to the position of president, he's initially seemingly very ineffective.
Yeah.
Like he's like, tell me, Sinatra, what do I say? What do I do?
He's tasked to give the speech to eulogize the president, to eulogize Cal Bradford. He is the face of paradise now. That Punim is the face.
He's the face, definitely not the heart, definitely not the brains, but he is the face. Okay, legacy and approval ratings, and I think we're out.
Yeah, legacy. He's the guy who led everybody into paradise. I mean, he'll always be known as number one. It all depends on how much of the truth comes out. I'm sure there's more truths that we don't know about yet. There's more things that will happen in season 2. Who knows how information will get back to paradise from Sterling as he's going on his search for his wife. His flight plans, who knows? Approval ratings, no matter what, he will be known as a very likable man. I think also everybody who's there appreciates being there and being an innie and not an outie. So,
but you're forgetting Ben. Okay, so if your contention, my argument is that the moment they enter that bunker, he's not president of the U.S. anymore. You're saying he is.
He's 100.
So that means
they're in the United States.
Okay,
he is the president of the United States.
That means he's got all the constituents within Paradise Bunker. Also, all his constituents are those outside the bunker, all the survivors still living within the U.S. borders. So his approval rating has to take in their opinions too.
We don't know how many of them there are.
But it still is 25,000 versus still millions.
You think millions. You think millions are alive.
They say it. They say that there's... Yeah, because none of the nukes went off. So if the U.S. has 300 million people...
How do they only find like a couple of people? You'd think that when the explorers go out, they would have found more than one or two people. In Colorado, around Colorado, there'd be even more people because it's high ground. Not near the water, high ground.
I think, correct me if I'm wrong, because I was watching closely, during that day 7, one of the nukes that does get through U.S. airspace, they do show really within Colorado. I want to say I saw a map of Colorado with a nuke headed towards Denver. That's one of the places where they're headed to. And that's one of the reasons why they're like, we have to nuke back because they're getting really close to our secret thing. So I want to say a nuke might have gone off around Denver.
Based off of current polling practices that they have in Paradise, I would say his approval rating is probably close to 80-90%.
And if you're on the outside and your phone rings,
if you pick up your phone, you're like, oh, who's calling me? It says it's spam, but I'm going to check to see who it is anyway. They're like, hey, we're wondering, what do you think about President Cal Bradford? They're like, he's alive? Is he dead? We don't know. Our new president, is there a new president? Maybe if they had the wherewithal to organize for another president. They're like, not my president. Maybe that's what they're saying. Not my president.
Outside the bunker, it's Kevin Costner's The Postman, where everyone's just trying to reconstitute the government via postal workers.
Well, when you control the mail, Eric, you control the information. That's a Seinfeld reference.
Okay, I'm going to say inside the bunker, 80%. That leaves like 20% to be like, I wouldn't follow politics before I got in here. I was just brought in here to be a bartender. I don't really have an opinion. So it's a very small group of people who are just detached enough from the news within the bunker to have a negative opinion on this guy. Okay, outside the bunker, 0%. I think everyone's like, what the fuck was that speech? And then you leave? You knew about this the entire time? For a decade at least?
They were like, whoa, think twice. Is this another day for you and me in paradise?
This has been Fake Presidents. I've been Eric Buckman.
I've been Ben Oren.
Artwork by Ann Heckert.
Music has been by Johnny Sadoff.
Find us online. Fake President, fake_president. We're around. We're there. Instagram, Blue Sky.
Blue Sky. You can email us
Threads.
with any questions, concerns.
fakepresidents@gmail.com.
gmail.com. Rate us, review us, subscribe to us.
Yeah, do all that. We appreciate all your support. It's been fun. We're in a golden age for fake presidents on new television, people, and new movies. In fact,
Over the past year, writers have really been pushing themselves to imagine fake presidents. They're like, we can't deal with the presidents we have right now, the choices that we have. Let's come up with something either better or more fun.
I have a different theory on that, and for that theory, tune into our next episode, 0 Day, to hear what I have to say about why are we now getting so many fake presidents.
Eric, that was a really good cliffhanger.
Okay, since I seriously doubt we're going to have a chance to talk about this movie ever again because it's all real presidents, I'm going to say my one pet peeve with The Butler right now.
Oh, we have pet peeves with Eric Buckman.
Yes. The original story was based on the life of a real person who worked in the White House residence for several decades, their entire life, from their 20s to like their 70s. When they took office, it was in the midst of segregation and Jim Crow laws. Remember, the White House is in the South. And when he leaves office, he's alive. Not office, he leaves the White House and retires. He's alive to see Obama get elected. And it's a complete full arc for this person who is like almost a real life Forrest Gump in terms of how he crossed paths with all these famous people throughout these various eras of American history. In the movie, when he starts working at the White House, there are two people, also black, already working there. Yep. When he leaves, they're still working there.
Oh, so they
They out-butlered the butler.
Yeah.
The movie should be about them.
Were they butlers, though?
I mean, they were working in the White House. They were in the residence, part of the staff.
There should be a show called The Residence, then.
There should be. Maybe like an upstairs, downstairs type thing about the inner
Maybe there
workings
could
of the
even
White
be
House.
murder involved. I don't know.
Okay, now you're going one step too far. Look, if you have a great IP, a book all about the inner workings of the White House on a day-to-day basis, and you feel like you have to then, trump it up with some sort of murder mystery plot, you better bring in some A-list funny people to
Actually,
do that.
I would say if anybody tried to do that, it would be a Shonda.
It almost rhymes. It almost rhymes.